So, welcome to an episode of Fynlo Podcast AI. Fynlo AI, I'm with two of the founders right now. Super excited to have you on the sofa. Now, first of all, we've got to talk about where it started. Where did it come from? Fynlo AI. Talk to me, Matt.
Fynlo AI, where did it come from? Good question. We're talking about the name itself, or we're talking about the company?
Well,
and its
the company, really, and its conception and where it came from.
So I suppose I should start with a little bit of a backstory. I've been in the freight and logistics industry for 22 years. As people may or may not know, it's a bit of an old and antiquated industry. And it's ripe. It still is ripe for disruption, I suppose. So towards the end of last year, I'd just finished up in my previous business, and I was looking for something else to do. I wanted to stay in the industry, but not directly in it. So I thought, right, what can I do? And I knew that there are fleets of HGV vehicles rumbling around the UK, all contributing significant amounts of carbon emissions, and the way people track those emissions is very manual. So I thought, right, AI is quite big. Maybe there's a way that we can marry up the two and really automate this for our, who will be our customers. And that's how it began. And then I spent the tail end of last year approaching VCs. I must have approached 100 plus VCs. No. It was just building up a collection of no's until we finally we started to pick up some traction and we got some funding. I suppose we'll come on to that in a separate later on down in the podcast. And that's it. And that's where we got to. And then already. So I suppose we'll loop Owen into this as well.
Yeah.
So I founded it. Founded the company, and then Owen is so everyone knows, we're actually brother-in-laws, which helps. So Owen was always going to be involved in the business from a consultancy perspective.
Sure.
But as the weeks and months went on, we thought, well, do you know what? And that opportunity became available in the business to become a co-founder. So I thought, well, we may as well just. Owen, are you up for it?
It sort of seemed inevitable, really,
he said yes, and that was it. And then here we are now as two co-founders of Fynlo AI, and we're excited to see where it's going to go next.
It was quite a natural progression, wasn't it? As we started to just work closer and closer together on what this project is going to be, how it's going to work. And I started to get more and more involved, and we thought, well, let's make it more of a permanent situation. And that happened in January, I think.
January of this year,
Yeah, and of course I've known Owen for quite some years now,
that's right,
and I know that you've always been top of your game, so for you to see the potential in this straight away, regardless whether you're related or not, it is a big thing for me, knowing you and the quality of your work. So you saw the potential of this early on.
No question about it. Hearing the ideas from Matt over the sort of the tail end of last year, and realizing the potential and the scale, the size of the potential here is really exciting, and there being this gap in the market that we can really form a solution for, it is quite exciting.
Well, I think everything's about timing, of course, and AI is certainly moving into that part of the world now that we're really embracing it and using it for its benefits, and also because of our planet at the end of the day and what we can do responsibility. We were talking in the green room before, Owen, about the responsibility of companies in a couple of years' time, that they really will have to be doing this to monitor what they're doing with the emissions and things like that, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely right. Heading towards 2027, there are added requirements for companies over a certain size to declare their emissions, not just CO2, but CO2e, which encompasses a lot more greenhouse gases, as well as the well-known carbon dioxide. So companies need, we know companies need to be able to better measure those emissions so they can really declare a real amount, rather than an estimate that's probably overestimated to play it safe, and then paying for either carbon credits or some kind of offset solution for those emissions that isn't really an accurate amount. They could be overcompensating in quite a big way, which will definitely be affecting company budgets as well. So we're looking at trying to just bring a little bit more accuracy to that measurement and into that offset solution, so that companies can satisfy those regulations, but also their own position as a company, that they're doing the right thing, but in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Matt, back to you.
Mm.
Going back to the problem at large and companies watching this, and again, I know plenty of fleet owners that
Yeah.
I'm going to introduce you to. I
That'd be
think
great.
will love
Looking
this.
forward to
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But just kind of summarize that problem, and I probably will talk on this in each podcast
yeah.
because it is
Yeah.
important. People watching this, listening to this, will go, "This is a problem. I can see why we would use this." So, just give me a kind of scenario of the real problem you're solving here.
Yeah, so at the moment, as I mentioned earlier, the way these fleet managers, operators, directors, whoever they may be, they manage these carbon emissions is all very manual. So if they want to calculate their fleet's carbon emissions, they have to go onto a separate piece of software or an online calculator and manually type in those details for them to get these the generalized emission data. And then if there's businesses out there that want to actually offset those emissions, they then have to go into a completely different piece of software, manually input all their details, and it's all very manual. So two different pieces of software to do very manual tasks. So what Fynlo AI will offer is an automated version of that in one easy to use SaaS AI powered package. So the fleet managers will be able to get that more accurate calculation. And then we are actually, and this is something else we want to talk about actually, as some people may or may not know, the carbon offsetting is a bit of a grey area. People are spending money into tree planting. A tree may take 7 years to grow. There's no real localized benefit from that or impact. So we're actually offering sorry, I've gone. An alternative
Yeah.
offset, I suppose. So instead of the traditional offsetting, we're partnering with charities to offset those emissions into local
Yeah.
charities. So it benefits local communities that those vehicles are actually serving,
Yeah.
rather than
The
these overseas tree planting or
Mm.
clay oven building initiatives where we can't really measure, or our customers can't measure the impact.
There's been over recent years a little bit more of a hit on the credibility of carbon offset solutions, and it's become a little bit more widely documented. And people are starting to ask questions that when I'm spending this much budget on my offsetting, and I'm not really sure that is actually hitting the button there and cleaning up. And I think something that is accepted very widely is that to live our lives these days, these orders that we make online and these goods that we ship around and so on, there is a fleet of vehicles facilitating that retail experience, right? And
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
so there will be a carbon footprint, and if we're tuned into that and accept that it has an impact on air quality, then there's a willingness to clean up that air quality afterwards. Not every fleet is ready and can afford to replace the whole fleet with an electric truck. And that's a very long story. We could talk about that a
That's
little bit
another
later.
topic complete. That's
Yeah.
a whole
But
episode.
right, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but there's definitely a budget that needs to go into replacing a whole fleet of HGVs with electric HGVs. A lot of considerations. So it's not going to happen overnight. And in the meantime, it's great to be able to clean up the carbon footprint you create and be confident that you've actually cleaned up that carbon footprint. So yeah, we want to offer much more credible options, and likewise, it can be sort of local, more recognized offset solutions, or it could be something that's more about supporting those that are affected by air quality. Like Heart
Sure.
and Lung Associations, Asthma Society,
Yeah.
organizations like that, where your sort of offset fund, as it might be called, if it was channeled towards a local clinic for those kind of issues, then it means that actually you're really contributing to those that are affected by your emissions.
And this all really plays with companies now looking for companies who are working responsibility wise with sustainability,
Right.
corporate social
Yeah.
responsibility, all these things. And it's the credentials. And you've got organizations such as B Corp and things like that are
Yeah.
really kind of highlighting the businesses who are really going above and beyond to make sure they're working sustainably. So this really fits, hand in glove with that. So it's a great box to be ticked there. Now, tell me who your target audience, excuse me, your target audience is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we got so there's two target audiences, I suppose. But firstly, we're zeroing in on and concentrating on so scope one operators, so companies who operate their own fleet of vehicles. So you can imagine the large supermarket chains.
Mm.
You can imagine how they've got lots of I have to get the numbers out, but some of the big supermarkets got huge 40-foot trailers moving all around the UK. But more importantly, I think they got a larger fleet of the home delivery vans. So you can
Yes.
imagine I think there's 3, 4, 5 supermarkets I can think of now off the top of my head that all offer this home delivery solution. And those vans are out all day, every
You
day.
see them all the time.
You see
Yeah.
them all the time, exactly
Yeah.
that. So, and
It's
again,
probably the same van. They've only got one, but you just see them all
They rebrand it every 5 minutes.
yeah.
yeah.
So, and I think some of these companies or the supermarkets are making an effort to transition. It's cheaper for those smaller vans to transition to EV, but there's still a substantial amount of diesel operated vehicles.
is,
So
yeah.
we want those companies to take ownership of their emissions and actually really manage them and use AI. They use our AI tool to actually put together a plan to reduce those emissions, and that's what the Fynlo AI product helps with essentially.
So somebody in a fleet manager role, logistic role
Yeah.
at one of these companies
Yeah,
is
yeah.
going to be responsible for a huge fleet of vehicles. And at the moment, they put a lot of work in. If they're trying to understand their carbon footprint and want to either clean it up or do something about it in another way, they're putting a hell of a lot of work in, and we can speed that up.
Sure. That leads me on to my next question that I want to ask you both. And that is the kind of return on investment for a company by using your software. What is
Mm.
the benefits in terms of, getting a return on investment, how that looks, whether that's productivity, whether it's money savings, what's the return on investment and the
Yeah.
benefits to the company there?
Good point.
Yeah, well, I think the first main, there's a couple actually. So the first main one is, again, there's a lot of pressure on these, especially the bigger brands, to on speeding up the transition of the larger fleets of full EV trucks. And now, as you can imagine, I think was it 300,000 pound for a full EV truck.
It's
So
typically close to double, isn't it?
yeah,
So whatever you're paying today for a combustion engine truck cab
Right.
yeah.
today, if you were to replace that directly with something electric, you're heading towards double the price for
Yeah,
the unit.
yeah. And you think some of these big supermarkets, again, I'm just concentrating on the supermarkets at the moment, but they have upwards of 1,500 40-foot trailers. So to replace all of those
Oh,
to meet the 2030 targets, that's going to have a real hit on their capex. So if they can actually not put a pause in it, but actually use a tool that actually they can reduce their carbon emissions and do something positive with regards to the alternative offsetting. They're actually making a good contribution to the UK, and they're actually doing something about reducing the carbon emissions that they are emitting, rather than just having a goal for the transition of EV. And in that, if it takes them 20 years, they could be contributing however much carbon emissions. They got no management or over it. So let's do something constructive. Let's help you reduce your emissions down, and you can essentially extend that transition period, which will save them some capex, I suppose. So I hope any financial directors watching this, I'm
Yeah.
hoping that will
Yeah.
be a big tick in the box for you guys. What other cost savings?
I think there's just linking to what you were saying just
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
There's a connection to any company that has a target to reach net zero. This would definitely contribute towards that. Clarifying the output is really important if you're going to know that you've actually reached net zero. And a big fleet of vehicles that has so many variables during operation, right? So many variables going on. The closer and the more accurate you can get, the better that's going to be, really. On a daily basis, other benefits include, for that person in that job role responsible for the fleet, it's going to free up a lot of their time.
Yeah.
It's going to bring a lot more efficiency to their day. Potentially, there's real potential here for looking at the use case of individual trucks and saying, oh, well, hang on a minute, that's using this system now really flags up that we're not using that truck or that van or that section of our fleet in the best way. They're showing up as high emitters, and they don't have to be. The AI tool does a little bit of, how can I put it? The AI does a little bit of
suggestive.
analysis, and suggestion for you in a very quick way.
Sure.
And therefore you're able to make some decisions much quicker about changing your utilization of the fleet. And it could be something as small as that, as simple as that brings down your carbon footprint size.
Yeah, sure. One that I just thought of now,
Yeah.
and I can see a benefit, certainly with the people I'm going to introduce you to, is let's just say, with AI, there's this whole debate whether it's going to make humans redundant and things like that. Quite the contrary, I think it's going to enhance things and make things better.
I agree.
So, for example, let's say they're not looking at making people redundant, but they're thinking, oh, we need to invest in another member of the team. They don't exist yet.
Right.
And they're looking, thinking, do you know what? This is going to be a 60 to 70,000 a year salary.
Could well be.
Right, that they'd have to start thinking for and all the rest.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden this could reduce that. So where they've now thinking, we need to take someone else on, they might not. Because they can still work with their existing team. And this just enhances that and saves them having to spend that,
And what their investment in that in our program is doing, it is actually fulfilling employment in the background. It's not just Matt and I working here tirelessly on getting the message out there and finding customers and building the program and so on. There's a whole team behind that are
developers
getting involved.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you know what? I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks this AI just makes itself happen, but there are a team of developers.
Yes.
Employment. So if anything, there's a shift going on in
just where the work is done. Maybe it's less visible to the end user.
Well, absolutely.
But the work is definitely being done there.
Yeah.
Something that's quite illustrative of that is last week we were actually building the software with our developers, and this is probably where we give a plug to Dutrix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys at Dutrix for all of your help. So it's an industry first, according to them. So the way in which we built our software in a 5-day sprint with them last week, 6 months ago, that would have taken 4 to 6 months to build out our software to where it is now. But we managed to do that in a week. Right. And that shows you how advanced AI has become in such a short amount of time. But it hasn't replaced them. It's just enabled the developers and the architects to move quicker. So it just means it's going to bring us to market faster, which means we can then employ and faster than we would have done previously. Yeah. So we see it as AI as a real benefit.
We'll be looking to expand our team directly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it can be defined to me as a tool, to assist and to enable more efficient working. And we certainly use AI within our production business now. For example, we're not actually really real. We're all, AI avatars. But it's one of those that it just enhances things, I think, and it's still, someone said to me the other day, Shane, do you know what? It's like almost for me, they said 80% AI and still 20% tweaking with the human kind of touch and that kind of touch point. So
there's a lot of human touch that goes into any of this AI.
Yeah.
And any AI results that you see. Yes. I think there's a lot of human touch in the background still. Yeah.
Well, I think you guys have certainly hit it at the right time. It's always fascinating to catch up with you. So I'm going to round this podcast up. And obviously for the people watching us online, please like, subscribe and all the rest of it to catch other episodes because there's so much information to come from these guys. So, well, there you go. That is the first episode with these wonderful guys from Fynlo AI. As always, thank you very much indeed. And we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you, Shane.
Thanks, Shane.
You're welcome.
Nice one.